So Harry as the puppet, like as this animatronic that he is, the one of the ways that the only parts of Harry that are actually within the animatronic he became are his soul, his magic, and a bit of his blood. Not too much, but while he was completing the initial stages of like getting the other kids, because he goes back to the room where his body was, and his magic is still like frantically trying to keep him on the mortal plane and like keep him alive. He goes back to this room where his body is and where the bodies of the other four kids are, because he did get killed alongside four other people. And while he's performing the initial stages of that, he soaks one of the feet of his animatronic body in his own blood, and that is what completes the like transformation and ties him into this animatronic, because it completes the ritual William set up with putting a part of the human body into the animatronic. uh Harry's magic and the way he transfers the souls of the other people into the animatronics does not follow William's rules, because Harry has magic of his own. Uh and he is a lot more connected to magic as a force. He doesn't really, it's kind of like how some people view the universe as a concept and others view it as like sentient. Most witches and wizards in this universe view magic as like an ability and a thing they can use, but Harry is more in tune to magic as an entity. And therefore magic will, like, he can do more things with it, but only in certain circumstances. He's not especially powerful with spells or anything, but his magic can do things other people can't, because it is, somewhat sentient and actively attempting to help him. Similarly to this, so not similarly, but this ties into William. William doesn't have magic of his own, but he can manipulate magic, because he accidentally figured out like the rules to a blood magic ritual that was supposed to bring someone back from the dead, through trial and error, after he figured out that Charlie had possessed the original puppet, and Charlie also had magic, which is why that happens. But so Harry, because he is, tying into this ritual because he was killed the way William did, and his magic is tied to this puppet because of William's ritual, and also because of magic's sentience, his own magic. When he gets the blood on the animatronic's leg, and he doesn't realize for a while that he's like in the blood, so it like soaks in, that ties him to the animatronic body, because now part of him is inside the body. He doesn't realize this initially, because the lower leg of the puppet animatronic, which is the animatronic that Harry is, does not have touch receptors. It's not meant to be moved, really. It's articulated at the knee, but it doesn't really have feet. It has like an area where the foot would be that has a little bit of a curve to it, so it sort of looks like a foot, like a stylized foot, but it's not actually meant for walking. The puppet was never meant to walk. It spends most of its time kneeling. Its two main functions in the pizzeria were security, and the gift-giving thing. So it would stay in its box, kneel in its box, usually sort of curled up, and then if the box was closed, and then when it was open, it would stay on its knees, either sitting on its knees or like up but still on its knees. And it would watch for like suspicious activity and whatever, but they wanted the animatronic to be fully mobile, because it's meant to, it does the thing where it'll like lift slightly out of its box to grab a prize for the kid and then give it to them. That's how the prizes work, so that they don't need a cashier in this area. But the puppet's body is meant to be built like the other animatronics, and it was not, because they wanted this full range of mobility, they couldn't just build it in the box uh and like have it bolted there, because they needed it to be able to move around within the box. But they didn't have it. If they had just given it knees without any other thing, it would have fallen over constantly, because it doesn't have anything that's actually lifting it. The marionette strings, it doesn't have marionette strings. It used to, theoretically, like, there are designs of it with the marionette strings, but they just weren't practical, so they ended up not using them, even though there is art of it with marionette strings, and some of the kids will draw it with marionette strings. It's implied, sort of, that at one point there were a set of, like, strings and stuff, but I haven't really figured out how to make that work yet. So it's just, for now, it was just a concept design. But because they wanted it to be able to move around and to not fall over, they gave it lower legs that were weighted so that it would keep its balance. The legs are built with, like, there's no, like, touch receptors, there's no joints. After the knee joint, it's jointed to the upper part of the leg at the knee. And then it's got, like, 3-4 metal beams that form, like, the structure inside of the leg, and a metal cage that forms the shape. And the rest of it is largely filled with, like, it's got, like, a capsule inside, that is also lined with metal so that the material doesn't get into the, like, machinery, that is largely filled with, like, just, like, there's the cage that keeps the shape of the foot, and then inside it's, like, built off into this area in the foot. The leg is caged to keep the shape of it, and so is the foot, and then inside of the leg and the foot is, like, a metal plate that forms the inside of the cage and keeps anything inside that area from getting up to the, like, mechanics, so that it doesn't clog anything. And that is mostly, or at least partially, filled with sand to help add some weight. But because Harry is already not used to the animatronic body that he's using, he doesn't realize that they're weighted initially. And also, there's no, like, touch receptors in them the way there is for the rest of his body. So he doesn't realize that he's getting stuff on them, because he doesn't realize they're there. He also cannot walk traditionally. His human disguise does walk. And he considers it walking when he moves around close enough to the ground. Because he moves around mostly, like, a few centimeters off the ground, largely. He floats and, like, sort of drifts around and glides, but he can't actually balance on the animatronic's feet, because they aren't built to do that. And so instead he just kind of hovers above the ground at such a, like, distance that it would be really hard to tell unless you were specifically looking at his feet from an angle that's really, really close to the ground, and, like, really paying attention to the way his legs move. And his human disguise largely covers that up by making it appear like he's walking, because, if you're seeing a guy who looks human, because he does look, you're looking for Harry Potter, you're looking for someone who's gonna, you don't expect an animatronic to walk into your area if you aren't in Freddy's. So, largely he looks like a human, and you see that and you assume they're walking, so it looks like he's walking, because that's what your brain fills in, because of the illusion disc sort of influencing that and making it easier to perceive things that aren't there. Not similarly, I don't know why I keep saying that, but because of that, people don't realize that he can't walk. And in his animatronic form, he usually just floats around a lot. He doesn't actually like walk. He just kind of hovers in the air. If he wants to get somewhere but can't float for some reason, someone has to carry him. I've considered doing a scene where Mike does this and like carries him into an area, but I can't think of a reason for why he wouldn't be able to float. So I'm still brainstorming on like the logistics of that scene, but I do want it to happen. He also like just I feel like he doesn't care. he doesn't really think about the fact that he can't walk. He just kind of at this point floating is second nature to him. He was like what, like 6 when he died, so he was able to walk, obviously. 6 or 8, I can't remember, but he was like able to walk, but he wasn't like, he didn't have the experience to say that not being able to walk was weird. Yeah.